Hey everybody, welcome back to another Gundam 00F, stone-faced reactions. Some days I'll get this intro thing right, that's why I have Griffin do it every time. Uh, alright. I know I said last time I'd probably do this as an extra part or something like that, but life's been busy lately, and I don't have time to go through the next volume just yet. So instead of nothing, I figured that I'd plow through the extra material on hand since we had it, and before that, we have a few comments from last time to go through. First up is Josh Phoenix. Not gonna lie, I went and reread the whole manga for 00F, but I have two things to mention. One, are you gonna read the other continuation and the prequel? And two, I did give a hint of what Hanyo was last week. Also, you thought the gun Harus from Witch were wild? There's more insanity to come. Well, I'll say, as with most things on the channel, if you want to stay up to date on everything we are doing, hop on over to the Patreon. The YouTube releases are always slightly behind where we are over there. Otherwise, yeah, I thought the gun Harus were crazy because they have always got shown as these Tomagotchi balls that don't do much. The instant any of them do anything, we are already in wild territory. Next up, we have Log Hey Long. Gundam Meister 874, or Hanyo, is a special innovate made by Veda that appears in this chapter using a hologram. Well, I think the confusing thing there is, as a drawn medium, i.e., the manga, there is a loss of perception as to what exactly is going on. In this case, when I look at it, I get the sense that Hanyo is touching stuff, moving things, cradling Fawn. I think cradling Fawn is going to be the most exacting example that I use. I talk to Griff about it all the time. A hologram can't do that as just a reflection of light. So, if the perception is that this hologram is just imitating wrapping her arms around Fawn and such for effect, then it's a hard thing to impress with still images. Conversely, if they are doing something like hard light, like Rimmer from Red Dwarf, then that is something else entirely that should be said at some point. Until then, it is whatever it is. But I think we should just go ahead and get into it. On the first page, we get a look at the Gundam Aseria, or Aseria? Aseria sounds right. Type F. I'm pretty sure this one hasn't been in the manga yet, or if it has, it's not been in this volume. So it's not only added information, but also a sneak peek for future chapters, I guess. The GNY001 is a prototype in the Exia series, named after the Greek goddess of justice, also meaning Star Maiden. It was designed to serve as a test unit for equipment. It also has a sensor mask to disguise the fact that it is a Gundam. It says it was designed by, and I apologize, I am horrible with the Japanese name. Well, I'm horrible with names in general. Let's just not set it to one nation. Uh, Ibikawa Kanatake, and for a moment I was worried these were like the Gundam Wing scientists. People in the world I was going to have to try and remember, but a quick check tells me that this was an actual real world designer of the Gundam, which I appreciate. I think I've mentioned it a number of times in The Witch from Mercury, but I love it when different designs are given to multiple people and everything gets fleshed out to look drastically different from one another, as they were in that show. On this page, we also get the first of a series of blurbs from each chapter thus far, given to us by Sherilyn. In this one, we discuss that one previous conflict every Gundam series always seems to have. We had drone wars in The Witch from Mercury. We had the Calamity War in Iron Blooded Orphans. And here we have the Solar Dispute, which seemed to rage some 15 years ago, based around the opposition to the construction of the solar elevator. I mean, it makes sense. Look how much lobbying and such goes on now from oil companies to prevent renewable or clean energies from taking over the market. During this time in history, Celestial Being was developing its second generation Gundams, and our Ferrochette leader, Shawl, was the last surviving Gundam Meister from some backstory event that we have yet to see. So, as Celestial Being moved on to complete the third generation with Exia and the like, the second generation suits were maintained as Ferrochette's Gundams. I like the concept of Chal forming a group on her own with the leftovers of Celestial Being that she had on hand, and Veda being like, "Hey, okay, it's kind of cool." It, I don't know, it gives me like a MacGyver kind of sense, if that makes sense to anyone who still remembers MacGyver. On the next page, we see a Gundam that we have encountered already, the Saddle Sud Type F, GNY 002F. We already covered what its name meant back when we first encountered it, but we reiterate that it is a specialized Gundam covered with a full body sensor array. This particular Gundam was designed by Takayuki Yanase. In the image breakdown, we see that it carries a revolver bazooka that can use multiple types of shells. Its shoulders contain sensor shields, but otherwise, the only other thing they wanted to note was that it had thrusters. So, pretty boring. In our Sherilyn corner, we recount that the Dynamese Torpedo specializes in underwater sniping, carrying a variety of guns to suit the situation. I suppose the HRL is the primary purveyor of underwater mobile suits, as the segment refers to them specifically, on how they rely on jamming to conceal their presence. The Dynamese torpedo uses photon scanning that can only be used underwater, with an odd last note that GN particles are difficult to manage. I imagine that the suggestion is that they are difficult to manage underwater. Next up, we have the Apool Type F, GNY 003F. As previously discussed, the word means Sphinx, and we get reminded of that here. I believe that there is a typo in the translation I have, as it repeats the HRL thing again, but the gist being that it can transform into a flight mode to conceal the fact that it is a Gundam. This one also designed by Takayuki Yanase. In the illustrations, we are shown that the Gundam's head is hidden in the nose of the fuselage, as well as the AMBAC system, AMBAC, is unavailable for use in flight mode. I don't know what AMBAC is. If it's just me forgetting, I guess let me know. Otherwise let me know. Still. Sherilyn's Corner goes into the fact that by 2307 AD, the global warming process had been stopped. Carbon dioxide is still a concern, so manufacturers are required to scrub the atmosphere of as much CO2 as they produce. We essentially reiterate the same facts from the chapter being represented, that storing the CO2 underground is a good way to handle it, but it is still more expensive than just using the free solar grid. We then move on to the Plutone, GNY 004. I think we all understood the Pluto part of Plutone, so no real need to go re-explaining it. Confusingly, this Gundam was designated for a resurrection and change, and since all we've seen it do so far is blow up while missing equipment or something, I'm not positive we'll ever see it do anything like that in this series. There is also a note that since the Ferrochette isn't assumed to be using it, they don't have the Type F version. All the other suits so far have had the Type F moniker attached, but it hasn't been explained what that means yet, so I don't really have a clue. I assume it's an upgrade of some sort. Yeah, I guess let me know as well. I mean, let me know as well if it's not a spoiler. take that as a ride-on for any time I've ever said, let me know. Let me know, unless it's a spoiler. And then I guess maybe let's let me know that it would be a spoiler, so we can't let you know. No. This one was also designed by Takeyuki Yanase. In the images, we are also shown that the rifle and shield are prototype versions for the Nodley. It has a GN condenser worn on the back that gives it the ability to utilize large quantities of GN particles, and it doesn't wear a sensor mask due to the fact no one is expected to be using it. Sherilyn's corner addresses the confusing Hanyo situation by stating that she is always kept inside the Haru. Much like some of you have told me, she is a three-dimensional projection, which only raises the previous points that I made. I guess the answer then is that she is pretending to manipulate stuff and is actually just communicating with the electronics remotely. In a previous chapter, I had also commented on a flashback shot of Charles' last team having a member that looked like Hanyo, and here it is confirmed that she was that person working with Charles in the development of the second generation Gundams. As was said before, she can link directly with Veda, which makes her pretty unique. In the last in the Farachette arsenal is the Core Fighter, the worst named unit in the bunch. As the description notes, it has no combat abilities, as it is used only as an escape unit. The Core Fighter is listed as a means to protect the GN drive and the Gundam Meister of the Pluton specifically. Yet again, another design of Takeyuki Yanase. After someone else designed the first one and I made a comment about it, I really got bit in the ass by having every other design after it be made by the same person. In Sherilyn's Corner, we go over the fact that the Nodley, Tierra's Gundam, was equipped with the trial system used to control all units linked with Veda. That the Pluton was a prototype for the Nodley meant that it was planned to be equipped with it as well, which we know didn't happen. There is also another note that if Fawn hadn't been wearing the pilot suit when the neck collar exploded, he would have been in trouble. Because, when I was reading those pages, I was surely thinking, this is a man who's not at all in trouble. But seriously, though, I have made multiple comments about how I thought the suit contained the blast and caused it to do less damage overall. So, same page with that, I guess. On our next set of pages, we go over the characters of the volume, starting with Von Spark. Apparently, he's only 18, which I guess is an excuse for why he's constantly calling Echo an old man. He also gets listed as the worst pilot in Gundam history and a felon that isn't influenced by justice and ideals. Glad to know that my favorite character in this entire series so far is just the worst. As we saw from the start, he doesn't approve of celestial beings' ideals. His handcuffs only get released when he's operating a Gundam, and he wore an explosive, that's weird, device around his neck. The image text covers most of the same stuff, but one sideways insults him by saying it is a rarely ever seen, but that he has an intellectual side. That seems out of nowhere to me. He's constantly schooling Echo on mobile suit performance and breakdown, and even had a philosophical discussion with Hanyo. He's constantly showing his intellectual side. Next up, we have Chal Acoustica at 31 years old. Even the adults in this show are younger than me at this point. The director of Angel and a first generation Gundam Meister. I expect when we get to her backstory manga that she's going to be some early recruit that went on into R&D or something like that. The rest of it is all fairly obvious, making note of the fact that she is scarred by something that happened in her past with the Pluton, both physically and emotionally. Next up on the same page is Sherilyn Hyde, and I wonder if they pulled that last name out because she's going to turn evil later, or if it was just a random choice. She's only 14 years old, and they're a mechanic at the same time. She's also a student of Celestial Beings mechanic Ian Vashti, and is obviously very skilled for her age. The last line says, she rarely expresses herself, so they then put a bunch of sketches under that, expressing herself right there. Seemed like dumb. The person putting illustrations in wasn't reading. The text of the images denotes that she dresses girly due to the fact that she doesn't consider herself a mechanic, and that she has a fundamental trust in people. In our final page, we get Hanyo and Echo Calore. For Hanyo, she is described as a representation of a young girl being projected as an image from an all-purpose machine resembling a Haru. This implies two things. One, that once again she is just an image and unable to interact with objects. Two, that the Haru isn't actually a Haru, but just something that resembles one. We are also told that she is responsible for contacting Veda and control the Fawn's handcuffs, reiterating that her existence is considered vital by Veda. In the imagery, we see that the Hanyu's Haru-like thing is considered superior to the Ptolemy's Haru. Surprisingly, the character that's been getting dunked on the entire volume gets the mysterious character read. Echo is actually 30, which didn't come across in its character design for me, but at least explains the old man lines from Fawn. But again, I'm older than these people now, so ouch. We also now know why he keeps being not allowed to sortie, as he apparently was removed from a candidate for being a Gundam Meister from Celestial Being. In the art, we make reference to the fact that his outfit is a replica of an AU uniform and that it might hint towards his past. It also mentions that he has also had many hardships, yet to be seen. Overall, this end bit told us a lot of things we already knew, but some of it was information I doubt would have been spelled out for us anywhere else but in other unread manga. So it was convenient to have it here in front of us. For the future volumes, it might also become useful in. The issues with Hanyo are basically answered for me, and it just turns out to be an odd thing that really doesn't change any of the scenes, so no big deal. All in all, I appreciate that it was here, and it was enjoyable to have it. So once again, I thank you for joining me for another dip into 00F. Hopefully next time I'll be on time with a normal volume read. So thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you all next time.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?